these people.
Speaking of
Yeah.
all of that, speaking of Substack, you did a thing. I wrote a Substack
get to it.
article.
There we go.
We
Yeah, I
talked
did. This right here, Fight for Palestine. Most of the people in the chat, I'm betting don't know this sport or care about this sport, or you might know a few names from it, but I've been a big UFC fan myself, and just fight sports in general. Been a martial arts guy for a minute, and a lot of them have been coming out in support for Palestine. And to me, it's one of those things where it's like the world is going to continue to move regardless of America's decision making, and this is kind of where it gets displayed. Bad Cookies is asking if UFC is the horse races. It's close. It's pretty close to horse racing. But here, let me pull it up. It's on Substack, which links in the description below if you want to go look at it. But I write, the UFC, short for the Ultimate Fighting Championships, is a cavalcade of characters from its bald-headed frontman in Dana White to polarizing fighters such as Conor McGregor, Colby Covington, Sugar Sean O'Malley, and the list goes very deep. Granted, a lot of these names aren't the best of role models, and that's putting it lightly. Plenty can enlighten you on the corruption and evil covering the fight sport. While not as fake as pro wrestling, it doesn't stop the WWE from becoming partners with the UFC. Keep that in mind. If you have watched how fights are promoted in this sport, you would see why those two parties would fit very well. There are plenty of heels and heroes for an audience to root for, but I want to focus on a particular aspect here and some characters with better convictions. So I'm going to start very far back in fight sports with Henry VIII. Collin, we're gonna go way back. Okay, who used the medieval tourney, which is the UFC of the day. It was pretty much, knights and stuff, jousting, all that fun stuff, right? For political means, using his money, power, and status to showcase his own military prowess and abilities in combat, as well as those of the surrounding region. So I just wanted to kind of leave that there for people to kind of figure out what happens with the UFC. That's still the case, right? UFC plays a similar role, like many sports these days. It's used to push political agenda, both good and bad, showcase the combat skills of different regions, and like the knights fighting in tourneys before them, each athlete has a media spotlight to talk about issues that are important to them. However, just like any media, if you say something that goes against the approved narrative, you'll be silenced. Take, for example, Colin Kaepernick, who spoke about police violence and criminal justice reform, or Muhammad Ali. Mike Tyson still has Che Guevara and Mao Zedong tattooed on him, so international politics is important to a lot of these fighters. Look, there's Mike with his Che Guevara and Mao Zedong. So interesting enough. Well, Mike Tyson. But I'm here to bring you what champions today find important enough to risk their careers to talk about. What do you think that is, Collin? We've been talking about it for the last month. Here, I can zoom this in, make it a little easier to read. How about that?
Yeah.
Like the late Muhammad Ali, who in 1985 went to Israel in an attempt to secure the release of Lebanese and Palestinian prisoners imprisoned in what was at the time occupied southern Lebanon. This followed his visits to Palestinian refugee camps in 1974, when he declared that the United States is the stronghold of Zionism and imperialism. While visiting Palestinian refugee camps in South Lebanon, he declared, "In my name and the name of all Muslims in America, I declare support for the Palestinian struggle to liberate their homeland and oust the Zionist invaders." I mean, Ali kind of had a lot to say. It's why a lot of people didn't like him.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen his antics in the political field, but he had words about Vietnam as well.
Yeah, right.
So, but recently a new group of fighters have taken up that mantle, and there are lots of direct political ramifications to this group's support, which I'll get to later. But let me introduce you to some of these fighters. The big three that I'll talk about right now: Khabib, Nurmagomedov. These are all fun names to learn. Islam Makhachev. Had to hit that little in there, and Khamzat Chimaev. Okay, 3 big guys. There are others I won't list here from this region that I'm going to talk about. All equally skilled. Region I'm talking about, Dagestan. You know where Dagestan's at, Care Bear? Might as well pull this up.
Russia, right?
Yeah, it's right here.
It's one of the stand.
Yep, it's one of the stands. So you can see it's just south, like Moscow's. Where's Moscow? Moscow's like up here.
Okay.
Should be. Russian names. Volgograd, yep. But yeah, Dagestan's down here, south part of Russia, right? Mountainous coastal region. Mainly Islamic. Which is interesting since they don't have any terrorism from what I've heard of, so kind of blows apart that whole all Muslims are terrorists bit that we've been hearing a lot. But right, largest Islamic population, mountainous coastal region south of Moscow. These names, if not champions in their sport, wouldn't be so important, but something in the water of that region produces some of the best fighters, warriors, wrestlers the world has yet to know. So we're going to start with Khabib. Now retired, was argued as one, if not the greatest of all time in his weight class, literally. Lightweight, he was undefeated for his entire career, 29 wins and no losses. In the UFC, that's a big deal, Care Bear. Undefeated record, was inducted in the UFC Hall of Fame on June 30th. His time in the Russian combat sambo scene before his time in the UFC was equally as decorated. Dude's a fucking god, pretty much. This talent of the fighters of Dagestan became a story even neo-Nazis in Ukraine couldn't avoid, Care Bear. So Vice writes in the description of this video, from California to Kyiv, far-right MMA groups are training their members for political violence. Okay, and I'll let you go in the description and go watch this later, because Vice would copyright us, I'm sure. But Vice showed how the Dagestani were shunned from right-wing clubs because they were brown Muslim Russians who just so happened to be dominant athletes in their respective sports that no one else could beat. Fight sports have for a long time been stages where civil rights issues and international conflict are put in a cage for only one side to exit after rounds of trial by combat, and now is no exception. So, fast forward to the present, where the next generation of Dagestani take the stage, most recently of UFC 294, held in Abu Dhabi on October 21st, 2023. So, how long ago was that? It's the 8th of November. 4 weeks.
2.5 weeks ago, something like that.
So the events featured a card that was stacked with Dagestanis. 2 in particular, whom I've already mentioned, won their bouts, one of which had a title belt on the line. Islam Makhachev and Khamzat Chimaev both had incredible performances that Saturday, but their skill in the cage isn't what I want to speak to you about, but rather their words and actions after their fight was over. So a little bit of history. These guys are all Dagestani. They all go to the same fight camp that Khabib's father started to get them out of terrorism and gangs, essentially. So Islam has become the kind of spiritual successor to Khabib with an almost equally decorated record. But he won his first round knockout of Volkanovski by way of head kick. He chose not to celebrate the victory in his championship in solidarity with Palestine. During the post-fight Octagon interview, Daniel Cormier put the mic in his face and Islam said, "I am not celebrating the win today because of the crazy things that are happening around the world. Palestine, we stand with you." After some more fight-specific questions, he left the Octagon with the flag of Palestine raised. So
Islam Makhachev raised Palestine flag after his win against Volkanovski.
So here he is with the flag going out, right? So nice of him to do that. Oddly enough, the UFC conveniently had this part of the Octagon interview missing from their recording on YouTube, Care Bear. Here's that interview.
Ladies and gentlemen, referee Mark.
And they literally just cut it out. Like they go right to the specific like fight related ones.
Gentlemen, I'm here with the lightweight champion of the world.
So nice little bit of censorship there by the UFC. Asked by a reporter why he dedicated his win to Palestine, Mahashev added, because all my last month on my camp, I watched the video, I watched the story about the situation, what happens in Palestine and Gaza. It makes me very sad because the people in Palestine or Gaza, they don't have nothing. They close them and they attack them every day, he said, referring to the Israeli closure on besieged Gaza and the prevention of allowing international aid to reach the devastated strip. This is crazy. What is happening? Gaza and Palestine, I want to send a message. Stand with Palestine. We are with you. That's it. So censorship for saying he stands with Palestine. Well, not a week prior, Brazilian UFC fighter Michael Pereira, which remember how I've been talking about the Brazilians, Care Bear? Was definitely not censored when he paraded around the octagon in his Israeli flag supporting Israel. Look at that. Look at this fucking genocidal dickhead. He fights again next week, by the way, this Saturday. And I'm hoping Jiri Prochazka puts it to him. Myself personally. So after the fight, Pereira said, "It is because of the war. I have many friends in Israel, and I saw some videos that broke my heart. I have a kid now, and I saw some videos with kids. I felt like I had to show support to Israel." Is that the same video that Biden watched, or what are we talking about? You know?
Yeah.
So Pereira was already on thin ice with UFC fans after missing weight against fellow welterweight Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He came in 5 pounds overweight at weigh-in, which really means he could have been at least 15 to 20 pounds overweight during the fight. You know how this works, Care Bear, right? You know, they have to cut weight, so they cut as much weight as possible, right? So, like, he's usually would have been extremely dehydrated and, like, you know, when he weighed in. So he then would have rehydrated, ate some food, and he would have been 15 to 20 pounds over. And it was going to be a close fight with Wonderboy. Like, every pound was going to count there. So Wonderboy essentially decided not to fight, right? So Pereira was at a substantial advantage in what was said to be a close fight. Thompson decided not to fight, which he's allowed to do under contract in this case. Then the UFC decided not to pay Thompson for the fight he had trained and made weight for because, well, as Dana White said, we pay for fights. He didn't fight. So that's how the UFC treats its members. So next up is Khamzat, who also won his fight against former champion Kamaru Usman, the Nigerian Nightmare, Care Bear. I'm sorry he lost. But it's to the Dagestani. It's a worthful opponent. So here's Khamzat with fellow fighter Bilal Muhammad, right? Another amazing fighter in his own right. Not particular Dagestani, but still supports Palestine, so good for him. Chimaev had a slightly more interesting tactic in his post-fight octagon interview after his win. He spoke in his native language, Care Bear, to a supportive crowd in Abu Dhabi. So Khamzat's Chechen, okay? But luckily, we have some translations for you, Care Bear, if you would like to hear them.
Thanks to my country, Chechnya. Allah Today, a
lot of you have come here. Oh, let's back it up.
Thanks to my country, Chechnya. May Allah
be pleased with all of you Chechens. May Allah strengthen you all. Today, a lot of you have come here. President, may Allah be pleased with you. May He be strengthened by you, standing with you, and fighting for you. Isn't that hard? If Allah allows me to Wahali, I will go to Palestine. May Allah give me a rifle and go to Palestine. I haven't been raised to be in here wearing shorts. Do you Chechens not know the heart we have in our body? If I get permission to fight for Allah, I'm ready to die for him. I'm not as worried of dying as I am worried of my Muslim brothers. So, strong words from the Dagestani. Translated into English, he says, guys, you know what's happening in the world right now. I wasn't happy in the cage fight this week and seeing kids dying. Currently, Kamzat represents the UAE. He thanked Chechnya and switched to his native language to address Ramzan Kadyrov. You know that guy, right? Ramzan?
No.
Head of Chechnya.
No.
The leader of Chechnya.
Okay.
You'll recognize his face. You know who I'm talking about.
Okay.
We'll get to that relationship later. But Kamzat asks, with your support, he's directly talking to Ramzan, it's not a problem for me to fight in the octagon. And if you'll grant me permission, I swear I'll be the first to travel there. I'm asking you to give me a weapon and allow me to go fight for Palestine. Okay? So, you know, translation's open to interpretation, but we're getting close, right? So earning the support of new fans by speaking to issues that affect them. Look at that. Look at that new fan. You know that guy, right?
Yep.
Socialist MMA of RBN. So why is all this so important, you ask, Care Bear? That relationship with Ramzan Kadyrov, leader of Chechnya, is one of many connections these fighters have. Take Khabib for his example in his recounting of meeting Putin for the first time.
What was it like meeting Putin for the first time?
Yeah, it was like first time I met 18.
When you were 18? Oh, 2018.
It was, for me, it was like a surprise, you know.
Like, how did that come about?
After fight, he called me. I remember we was in locker room. Everything what happened. Police come, they put us in locker room, like 300 police come. I remember this. In
Where?
Vegas.
The 300 Vegas police came.
No, what happened after fight? When I jumped.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
It was a governor from Nevada state,
Okay.
I think. Yes, he was there. Like jump, people go crazy, everything, and then police come. They lock us in locker room. And 2 hours we stay there. I was like, hey, why we stay here? Why you guys like a lot of police come? And I remember like Dana White, everybody tell you have to stay here. Okay. And my phone was off, and I remember Islam phone was on, you know. And father call, they contact with father. Father can call Islam, and Islam give me phone, and I say, hey, Putin gonna call you. And okay, I'm like surprised, you know, big surprise.
And this is just after the fight, too.
That's wild.
Just after the fight.
And what'd he say?
Congratulations. We're proud of you. It was an amazing fight, like this. And of course, I'm not gonna say everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
And then what, you guys met? Like, you guys
Right.
met in real life then after?
Did
He invited you to
yeah. After that, we met in real life. He loves sport.
Doesn't he play like
When
hockey
he-
and shit too?
No, not karate.
He plays hockey.
No, he play hockey,
Yeah.
but he was
He does?
judo. He played judo when he was young. He played judo, and
Not when he was young. Olympic level Judakan Putin. Like, that is no joke. Like, they took Putin's belt away. Like, the Judo Association had to take his like black belt because of the Russia stuff. Like, dude was ex-KGB. Okay? Like, knows his stuff. Right? So this is what happens when you have like ex-KGB guys form leaders, is that you get guys who like fighting in sports, you know? So, but this is the thing, is that these fighters, like those old knights, they're heavily connected to like the leaders of their country, right? So these fighters are heavily connected to heads of state and the perks that come with that, including having the ears of these world leaders. Okay, Kamzat seen here. Here he is for Ramzan. Okay, which I have to go to the most evilest of websites. No. Look, there's Kamzat. Look at him dancing. Here we go. Like, he doing it. He doing the moves. But, and there is Ramzan. Right there, that little bearded gentleman. So, and this is, Collin, this is not just a one-time occurrence. Okay? Like, here he is again with Ramzan. You know, like, doing more dancing. You know what I mean? At a wedding. At weddings and whatnot. Like, they're close friends. Collin, these, it's wild. So here he is talking about the story of a free luxury car.
I even saw the Chechen leader Ramzan.
Ramzan, yeah.
He surprised you with a Mercedes Benz.
Yeah, actually, I gave him 3 times.
3 Benzes.
Three Benzes.
Yeah.
Did he?
Three Mercedes Benz, Collin. So
He talked to you when you were trying to retire too.
Yeah, I did.
He just bought you another Benz and said, "If I'll buy you a Benz, you can retire."
Yeah, when I see the best, become a healthy man.
So he's relating to when he became a healthy man.
Like, I know one time you said that you wanted to retire. Like, is there like a lot of ups and downs mentally with being a fighter?
You know, that time when I said that, doctor said to me, Collin, you has a cancer, man, and you still coughing blood, and you think, man, you're finished, you know. I said to my managers, and when he said, doctor says, I watched him, man, no money anymore, brother. He was stressed, and what you talking about and this shit. Then they bring other doctor, and he said, no, it's not cancer, it's corona.
So it was that.
Okay.
A little COVID stuff happening there. Gamer for Life in the chat talking about Dana White as a repub and a capitalist to the core, bro. That's not even the half of that iceberg. Okay, there's countless documentaries about the history of the UFC and how it starts. Trump is directly tied to that because UFC almost didn't exist without Trump actually allowing fights to happen in his venues. So Dana White's a big fan of his. Look, here's Kamzat and Ramzan sparring. Like, oh, being very, very nice to them. Oh, clean little double leg. Oh, he sprawls. He knows how to sprawl, Care Bear. Look at him. Tries to turn the corner, pushes him up against the cage. Dude knows what's up. So anyway, all fun aside, my point being that when a man like Kamzat asks the leader of Chechnya for a rifle, one who he readily goes to this guy's weddings, asks him for rifles, sends him to fight for Palestine, a man with ties to Dagestan and Russia and Khabib and Putin, don't be surprised if they actually do send him. And others with the same convictions, because you know there are many. Right?
Right.
So, with rifles to fight, which they are apparently extremely good at. Remember those records I talked about earlier? These guys know how to fucking do their dirty work. Okay? Like, so there's another Dagestani the West fears, Collin. He's the most feared Dagestani. It's Hezbollah. Hezbollah, my favorite Dagestani. Seen alongside his Russian brothers and comrades at every event. Even he stands, short in stature though he may be, with Palestine. Look at him. Look at how cute Hezbollah is. I love
Except
him.
how old is he?
He's like 23, 24. Like, whatever, you know? So, like, there's a famous video of like Mike Tyson not realizing he's a fucking fully adult man and treating him like a child, which is like I'm sure Hezbollah is used to. But yeah. So look, I'm not asking you to watch every fight like I do and following all the podcasters and fighters, but it can be a useful barometer for where the world is. You see outstanding reporters like Kit Clarenberg of the Gray Zone feel the need to punch back, pun intended, at UFC fighter Tim Kennedy for his propaganda. We're going to get to him in a second again. Here's Tim Kennedy. 10 signs you might be the bad guys if you, A, kill babies, rape your victims, all this standard fucking propaganda that gets pushed out. Kit Clarenberg, UFC star Tim Kennedy says he killed kids and women in Iraq. Just, you can't, like, that's back-to-back loss, bro. Like, that's direct L. Like, what is this? Kill babies, kids and women. So a former U.S. Green Beret who said he unapologetically American also mocked PTSD sufferers in a controversial Facebook post. So Kit Clarenberg giving it to him. So journalists like Abby Martin from the Empire Files end up on the podcast of UFC commentator Joe Rogan to talk about the Palestinian struggle back in 2021. Do you remember this, Care Bear?
Don't you think that like the tide has shifted in that subject?
We might have played it. I don't know if we can, but links are in the description. Yeah. Joe Rogan's a little weird with people playing his stuff, which I get. Well, look, there's Abby Martin. You know she said some stuff. This is on her Twitter. Links are in the description anyway, so if you want to catch that. But guess who else Rogan has to have on? Right? Look at that, Tim Kennedy. This was 7 days ago. Tim Kennedy's concerned about Israel-Hamas war and escalating conflicts. Right? So just goes to show. But even the notorious Conor McGregor has to weigh in. God, please fix this situation. Horrific scenes out of this despicable war in the last few days. And over the years, how can we as human beings be at conflict with one another? As sickening as this is, God, please, I pray. Look who he's retweeting, Care Bear. At Censored Men. We've been seeing a lot of censored men going around the Twitterverse with Palestine. So, dead baby is lifted under the rubble in Gaza. That's what Conor McGregor is retweeting. Luckily, the Irish are pretty good on this issue. So, but I digress. Feel free to ask Jason Burmis, friend of the show, friend of Misty, or do some cursory Googles to the dark side of Conor. He's notorious for a lot more than his fight antics. But I digress. I feel bad for putting him in here with Khabib, who was pretty shitty too. But you know, as Conor would say, it's all business. And Khabib didn't say shit to that guy for an entire promotion until he got into the cage, and then he asked, "Let's talk now," after beating the shit out of him. But like I said, keep an eye on some of these names. You'll never know how the gladiators today will pull the ears of many a Caesar. I think in closing, I'll leave you with this. The real threat the West should be worried about, Care Bear. Hezbollah! Hezbollah! Right there in the Oval Office. That's what they're afraid of. And I joke, but this is what they're afraid of. They're afraid of someone that represents us here in office. But I wrote this a while ago, so there has been some updates to this that I wanted to add. I'll start. Where is it at? Here. So, Israeli MMA fighter Haim Ghazali, who calls himself the Israeli Batman, wrote the name of Muslim MMA fighters Khabib Nurmagomedov, Bilal Muhammad, Islam Makhachev, and Khamzat Chimaev on a missile bound for Gaza. He then posted the photo with the caption, "This is from me to the rats." Okay? So, I mean, anything else to add on that? Not really.
In terms of this.
in terms of that, I have to find another thing I had earlier. So speak while I do that.
Speak, boo boo, speak.
Yeah.
Good dog. I'll say this generally though. Again, I'm not into UFC fighting at all, but I mean, just the idea of sports and politics is not a new thing. So, but we can see already how capitalism is playing a part in terms of having, we joked about GJ Khaled, earlier, but the idea that he has not said a word about Palestine and he is Palestinian, because obviously he doesn't want to give up his check, so to speak. And I can imagine for a lot of these UFC fighters is a similar thing. So the idea that a lot of them are speaking out for Palestine, I think, or any major issue like that people overwhelmingly support almost to the detriment of their careers, I think, it's really something, but the difference is they can kick your ass.
Yes, which I'm about to get to. So this is Tom Khan. He runs a gym in Abu Dhabi. Okay, guess who ends up at that gym a lot? Care Bear. The Abu Dhabi guys. That's all this the Dagestani guys as they fight out of there frequently. So, but here I'll let him have some words about that guy.
Former MMA fighter and the most stupidest message I've ever seen. Writing the names of world champion legends, Muslim fighters. So obviously he's an Islamophobe. He has as you can see, like the Israeli terrorist regime, he has a hatred for Islam. Many other people have stood up for Palestine, but all of a sudden he's wrote the name of Khamzat Chimaev, Islam, Khabib and Bilal Muhammad. Number one, stop making me laugh. Just because you drew on some stupid missiles, acting like a tough guy because you're in the IDF. If you met these guys in person, you would shit your pants. You would piss yourself. Number two, you take a picture and have an autograph with them. Yeah? 100%. Number three, be a man. I own a gym in Dubai. Come and meet them. Khamzat's here. Come to the MMA room and tell Khamzat how you feel. I guarantee you, within 15 seconds, he'll have your head off your body and he'll play football with it. Yeah? He will tear you a new You cannot even step to him. It's embarrassing. You couldn't even beat my reception up, let alone Khamzat. Then Islam, Bilal, Khabib, they won't even... I don't think any of them are going to even entertain this. You are not on their level. You've never been on their level in MMA, let alone in fighting. So what is this bullshit, childish maneuver? You understand? If you've got a problem, you can fly to Dubai. I'll welcome you as a guest. No, for me, I'm not a bastard. You can come in. I won't even make you pay for the day. Free pass. I'll give you whatever. Pass. You can do bare knuckle, whatever you want. And go. Walk and say to Khamzat what you think. I'd love to see this, please. It will be a massacre. So please, calm yourself down, internet warrior. Have a can of Coke. Relax. Put your feet up. Watch Seinfeld, the TV shows you like. And keep watching the sick, barbaric, sadistic Holocaust your government is insinuating and implementing on children. Instead, be a man, be a real Jewish man of honor and stand up for what's right and wrong. Yes, anything Hamas in a...
But, yeah, I mean, like, I couldn't say more to that guy specifically, you know? Mm-hmm. But there are some other things, just as an aside. So this is from Raw Alerts with their with some reporting. So hundreds storm into Mashhalkala Airport in Russia. Guess where that's at, Care Bear? You should take a guess off that name. What part of region that's in?
Russia.
Dagestan specifically. Watch of hundreds of Muslims storming into the Makhalahakalov International Airport in Russia. The region reportedly kill Israelis and Jews after rumors began that Israeli aircraft were preparing to land at the airport. This situation has been unfolding for several hours, but here they are. Right? So this is because they found out, Collin, that there were Israelis coming to the airport in Dagestan, a majority Islamic country. This is how this is the convictions of these men. I'm telling you, like, fuck around and find out. Like, this is how the world sees you right now. You need to take a look if the Dagestanis are like looking for you. You know what I mean? So, like, look, they're literally like, they're like out here by the planes. So, yeah, I mean, you know, and I already heard all the Islamophobes calling this a pogrom, and, you know, like the usual idiots, like, who a peaceful protest that had no violence happen is somehow violent. But you know what they do to your kind of people, Collin, when you protest. So, last thing, this happened recently. This is in Dutch World Heavyweight Championship in kickboxing. Rico Verhoeven, another great fighter. He had some words to say.
Thank you so much. But guys, let's take 1 second before we celebrate.
This is 11th defense.
Crazy stuff going on in the world. So let's take 1 second to take the Gaza situation and just hope and pray for unity and for...
There we go. How about some volume?
Thank you so much. But guys, let's take 1 second before we celebrate. There is crazy stuff going on in the world. So let's take 1 second to take the Gaza situation and just hope and pray for unity and for peace in the world, guys. Thank you so much.
I mean, that's it. Unity and peace, which we talked earlier about those. But, you know, thoughts, Care Bear?
No, I mean, as I said, well, good job, Reef. This is your first article, and you told me about it. And, right, I'm not sure where you're gonna go with it, but but I think, yeah, you did a good job in kind of showing, again, the idea how sports and politics are intertwined. And I just kind of wish, honestly, I mean, with some UFC fighters, we're seeing that they do actually, well, they literally have the backbone, and because they can
yes,
their ass.
they literally can. Like, yeah.
But it's kind of seen more the mainstream sports like the NBA, like it just makes me go back to thinking how LeBron basically just tanked when Obama just kind of like, oh, you don't need to go on strike.
That's the thing about the NBA. Like, it's one nation. It's
right.
It's our nation. So then Obama can come in and put on his comfortable shoe and tell them to not strike. Whereas in this case, the UFC has Brazilians, Russians, Dagestani, like, Argentinian, like they're everywhere. Indian fighters, like, the UFC automatically has to have a much more international thing, So, like, it's had multiple African champions at this point. It's had, you know what I mean? And I guarantee you, Israel Adesanya is going to be right on this issue. I guarantee you, Kamaru Usman going to be right on this issue. Like, I could be wrong, but most of them, I would imagine, Francis Ngannou probably going to be right on this issue. Like, so my thing is that it's indicative of what the world is seeing. I mean, you're literally seeing the people of Dagestan freak out because Israelis show up in their, like, neighborhood, and I can't blame them, So I don't know, but yeah.
At least many of these guys, as people in the chat said, are staying on principle, so that's a thing. I just
Yeah.
wish in a lot of mainstream sports that athletes can walk in that same principle too, and not just for the cash.
Yep.
So,
and it's personally why I like UFC. It's two guys in a ring, and no matter what happens, like winner gets the mic. So, you know, and with the Dagestanis being so dominant,
right?
You know,
so it does make sense that they have. So yeah, like as you said, that makes a lot of sense. That they literally have something to fight for, especially if they really want.
Yeah.
To kind of share the solidarity. Palestine is like,
and bro, please,
literally,
if we've learned
fighting.
anything in the UFC, do not piss off the Dagestani. Just don't do it. It's a bad idea. You treat them with respect and honor because they fucking deserve it. Like, anyway,